Welcome to Giant Cocktails, a podcast where two lifelong fans talk about the San Francisco Giants while drinking homemade cocktails. Now, here are your hosts, Ben and Matthew Henry.
Welcome to another episode of Giant Cocktails. I am your host, Ben Henry, alongside my spiritual brother, the walloped Andrew Baggerly. How you doing, Andrew?
Wait. It's not Andrew Baggerly, Ben.
Oh, it's not.
No, that was a one-time thing.
Right.
One time.
Right, because I would never do that to you. Because I would never do that to you.
Yes, you would.
I would totally do that to you. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh man, as soon as I heard that intro last week, I was like, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Like, I would have done that too. But no, Andrew Baggerly just for the one episode. I mean, maybe he'll come back in the future. We don't know. We haven't heard from him since, so we're not, we're not super optimistic right now.
Exactly.
It's a little touch and go. Okay.
He did invite us over to his house to have kumquats, though, or loquats.
That's true, but I think he was kind of inviting the whole universe.
He was. I was just hearing us,
like,
though. Yeah.
If anybody wants to drink hot wine at my house that I made myself out of my loquats. And I feel like he might ask a lot of people that, and he gets told no.
Because really, who wants a bunch of loquats?
Well, you know what? I would do it. Because now I know him a little better, and I know that, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about.
I'm totally down for some Nespolino. That's for sure.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, it was the plum wine that was hot. It was the Nespolino. Sounds like it was just fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
Nespolino made out of loquats, which I definitely did not know until I met Andrew Baggerly. But now I know. Anyway, enough about Andrew. He's old news. If you want to hear more of Andrew, though, he offered a lot of insightful insights.
Sure.
We need this is what happens when you lose the writer on the show. Anyway, I am here, of course, with my brother, the walloped Matthew Henry. How are you doing, Matthew?
The life of a Giants fan is tough, man.
It's tough this year. It's tough.
I feel I watched the game today on Sunday, Mother's Day, and I feel like I'm wrung out, man. I mean, it was highs and lows and highs, and this is the season. This is how it is.
It's pretty brutal. We're all a little beaten up, but you know what? The poor Giants outfield is literally beaten up.
They're literally walloped. I just feel walloped.
Yeah, literally walloped, and there's gonna be more about that later. But that did lead me into my question of the day, Matthew, the little icebreaker.
Okay.
Where people can learn more about you. Because I don't know why, because it's funny. I don't know why we do it. But that's how we do it.
This is it. This is the show.
This is it. This is the thing. This is the show. This is one of the bits. And we're never giving it up. And so my question for you today, Matthew, is what is the worst injury you've ever had?
The worst injury that I've had. See, I haven't been in any like serious car accidents, or anything like that. I have broken a couple. Okay, so I've broken a couple bones.
Okay.
The one that comes to mind is my junior year in high school. I was running the 200 against SoCal High, and they had a guy that was really fast, and we were neck and neck running down the last straightaway. As we approached the finish line, he was right there, and I knew that if I could outlean him, and so boy, I did. I outleaned that kid, and then just face planted into the track. And when I did that, I dislocated and broke my left wrist. And that is probably the most serious injury that I've had. And it was not fun. Wow. I had to be in a full arm cast, in which I didn't stop running. I ran track that year with a cast on. They full arm cast for a couple weeks or a few weeks, and then they cut it down to a half cast for the few weeks after that. And The only downside was I couldn't use blocks. But it all worked out, mainly because I was so damn good.
Yeah, so damn good you couldn't stay on your feet.
Well, there was that.
Good
but
one.
I won
Good
the
one,
race,
Henry.
I won the race.
Yeah, and that's really all that matters. Did you win the race? Well, let me see. I broke my pinky finger when Scott Dryden passed me the ball too hard. I broke my arm twice, once playing flag football in middle school and once riding my bike. Let's see. Oh, man, I once pulled a muscle in my back when I had pneumonia from coughing too much. It felt like I got shot. I will tell you what, I got some Toradol about an hour and a half after that, and it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. The relief from that pain, from getting that Toradol, was just amazing. Amazing. And I can't believe that happened from a non-steroidal, It wasn't even an opiate. Wow. But the worst injury I've ever had in my life, I don't remember. Probably 2 times over. One, because I was too young to remember it, but also because of the type of injury that it was. I suffered a traumatic brain injury in a car accident when I was 2 years old because I had climbed out of my car seat just at the moment that a moron cutting a lane crashed head on into our car.
I remember that. You were down on the ground of on the floorboards of the car. Let's be honest. Even if you were in that car seat, I don't really know how much it would have helped. It was
a 70s car seat. Yeah, I mean, they were kind of an afterthought, folks. It was really about keeping the kids still so the parents didn't have to worry about you while they were drinking their 6-pack while they drove.
Exactly.
That's the 70s, 70s. Anyway, today is May the 12th, Sunday, May the 12th, as we record this podcast, Mother's Day 2024. Happy Mother's Day, why, belatedly, to all your mothers, including my mother, who I haven't spoken to yet today. Don't judge me. You don't know. I have ADHD.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Right, yes, that's what I meant. Happy Mother's Day, Mother. Anyway, your San Francisco Giants, as I was saying, went... Is this right, Matthew?
Well, I'm not counting the Monday Phillies game. I'm only counting the 2 series. Because they played 7 games.
Right.
But I'm only counting the 6
I like it.
of the 2
Sure.
series.
Yeah. No, let's say that whole Phillies series didn't happen.
No. What Phillies series?
Yeah. So anyway, the Giants, therefore, in their last 2 series, have gone 4-2. Which is it's amazing. 4-2. They now have a record of 19-23. They're only 4 games under 500, folks. Only 4 games, which is 2 better than their season high of 6. And better than the record that they had 25% through the season last year. And remember, last year, they got your hopes up all the way into August before they disappointed you. So there's still time for them to do yet another rug pull this year. And if that's not the positive news that you want from this show, I don't know what is.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
I'm telling you there's a chance. I'm telling you, because here's the good news. We're not as bad as the Colorado Rockies, as we already knew, because they had gone 2-0 against them as of our last Thursday episode. They did drop the 3rd game, did not get the sweep, because the Rockies decided to, be good for 8 pitches. That was it. The Rockies were good for 8 pitches. And in those 8 pitches from one Keaton win, the Rockies scored 6 runs. It took him 8 pitches. 6 runs. It was fascinating to watch that on. I mean, there were some mound visits, I think. So, but if you just the amount of time that took, I think was less than 3 minutes.
Oh, it was crazy. I mean, there was no way even if they wanted to, there was no way a bullpen arm was getting up. I mean, it was just
no, there was no way. There was just you could not have stopped that from happening. I mean,
part of me though, this is. I'm trying to be optimistic, but what kept going through my mind was that it takes the Giants 300 pitches to score 6 runs, and they are scoring
it takes
like
them like
8.
Sometimes it takes them 18 innings to score 6 runs, Matthew.
Exactly.
Right? There was a stretch of 9 games where they were scoring 3 runs or less per game, right? Yeah. And it takes the Giants 18 innings to score 6 runs. And they're the Rockies, who are worse than the Giants offensively, which is mind-blowing. They scored it in 8 pitches. It was fascinating. But they came back. They faced the Reds, and then they lost 2 in a row to 2 bad teams, right? Because the Reds came in scuffling worse than the Giants, and then they dropped the Friday opener. And come on, man, it's just like you just got a little bit of mojo back by winning the series against the Rockies, and now you're just gonna really, against the Reds. But then they played a great game on Saturday, a classic 2024 Giants win. Like if they're gonna win, that's the way they're gonna do it. And then they had an unconventional way of winning today on Sunday as we record this podcast. The offense scored 5 runs in a single inning.
Actually came back from a deficit, in fact.
Right, yeah, came back.
Twice came back in that game.
That's right. And they prevented the other team from scoring the zombie runner, the Manfred runner.
Which you kind of almost expect nowadays, right? That guy's going to score.
You do, especially if the Giants, if the Giants do, but what you really expect is that the Giants will never drive in their Manfred runner. They have been bad with the Manfred runner for the last couple seasons, right? Since I think it was introduced, they just have not been good at driving that guy in. They did it. Casey Schmitt came through, and they've taken 2 out of 3 against the Reds, and suddenly now they're like, okay, a little bit of the pressure is off. Right? And we talked about how this could be the beginning of the end a week ago, but not so fast. Now could be the beginning of the end, right? Tomorrow, next series could be, but also could not be, because we did see a breakthrough where the Giants finally had their offense pick them up when their bullpen faltered. Their offense picked them up.
Yeah.
Did enough to win anyway. And they had one of those great pitching and defense games on Saturday. So if you have enough of both of those things, then this is a team that I think at this point we can't really expect much more than 81 wins, but that could make a playoff spot. So all hope is still not lost. Except 2 things. Well, I guess it's 4 things, right? It's Austin Slater, it's Michael Conforto, it's Jung Hoo Lee, it's Jorge Soler. And I know some of you are not disappointed that some of those people are hurt. And if I wasn't one of you, I would say that's very wrong of you. But I bet we disagree on who we're glad about being hurt. But one thing's for sure, none of us are glad it's Jung Hoo. So we're going to be talking about the injuries today, what's bad about it, which is kind of obvious. But don't worry, we're going to dwell on that because that's what I do. I like to dwell on the negative. But also we're going to talk about the silver lining to that. Exactly. And it's just around the corner, folks. They're going to start asking you to vote for the All-Star game. And we're going to start asking ourselves, which of the Giants deserve to be an All-Star? How many All-Stars will the Giants have? And why it's only one?
Now you're going to beat around the bush on that, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sneak preview. So that's what we're talking about today. But first, before we get into all of that, Matthew, you need to ask us our trivia question.
Okay. Well, speaking of the All-Star game, since 2017, the Giants have sent 8 players to the All-Star game. Now, some of those players have gone multiple times. Only 1 player is currently on the active roster. Name him.
Tsuyoshi Shinjo?
Sorry,
He's not-
that's not the answer.
I have to pick one on the current roster. Yeah, okay.
It's kind of an
here we
easy
go.
one, but there's a point to all this at the end here, so we'll just roll with this trivia question.
I'm going to guess one anyway.
Okay.
Jackson, a.k.a. Skeeter Reitz. That's my answer.
Oh, Skeeter. Folks, I off the air many times, I keep forgetting Jackson Reitz's name. And so I've named him Skeeter because it just Reitz and the ski, it just sticks in my
They both
head.
have
And
EET
so,
in the name.
yeah,
in the word.
so that's where, so Ben and I now have an inside joke. Last year it was Rule 5 draftee Blake Sable. This year it's Skeeter Reitz. There's always a
There you
catcher
go.
that just sticks in my head.
Skeeter, final answer, locking it in.
All right. We'll see how wrong Ben is at the end of the episode.
Enough with the banter. Let's talk cocktails. What are you drinking, Matthew?
Well, thanks, Bob. I'm drinking an original cocktail that I am calling the Emerald Zinger. And the reason I'm calling it that is because every now and then I get bored with some of the things that I'm playing around with in the cocktail land. And the way that I fix that boredom is I create a new syrup. And so I was rummaging through my tea bags and I found some green tea. So I made some green tea syrup. So the Emerald Zinger has 2 ounces of gin, 3/4 ounces of green tea simple syrup, which is basically 1 cup sugar, 1 cup water. Heat that up until it dissolves, just to get it to simmer, and then take it off the heat. Throw in 3 green tea bags in there and let it steep until it cools. So that's how I made my green tea syrup. You're going to add 1 ounce of lime juice, a 1/2 ounce of ginger liqueur, and 2 dashes of cherry bitters. Put all those in a cocktail shaker with ice. Give it a good shake until well chilled, and then you're going to strain it into, I strained it into a rocks glass with a chunk of ice and garnished it with a lime wheel. But if you want to serve it up, you could certainly do that as well. This is one also that you could add a little splash of club soda or ginger ale. It would also be great as well. So, but I'm drinking it straight on the rocks today. That's what I'm drinking, an Emerald Zinger.
That's a tasty cocktail.
It really is, Bob. I'm actually liking this one.
What are you drinking, Ben?
Well, thank you for asking, Bob. First of all, wow, we really got to get that cocktail show launched because you just like, you really want to talk about your cocktails. I can tell.
I know. I'm trying to be.
I can tell you really want to do it.
I'm trying to be brief.
Yeah, we're getting closer, folks. We're getting Here's the problem. I recorded too much, and now the episodes are too long. So we're trying to fix that problem. But the show is coming. I didn't lie. It's happening. But anyway, what am I drinking today? Today, Bob, thank you for asking, by the way. Today, Bob, I am drinking a cocktail I am calling Mother's Apron. And why is it called Mother's Apron? Well, because it has apricot liqueur in it and bourbon. So Apr'oun is spelled APR''OUN. And because it's Mother's Day. And what's in it? Well, first of all, it is 2 ounces of bourbon, 1/2 ounce of apricot liqueur. I'm using Giffard's du Apricot. I forget. It's like Lucien or anyway. I can't pronounce it. It's French. It's Giffard's Apricot Liqueur. I'm sure if you ask Google or ChatGPT, it will give you the right name. To that, you combine both of those in a highball with ice, and then you add 4 to 6 ounces of club soda. You stir gently, and that is how you make the Mother's Apron. And that's what I'm drinking today, Bob.
That's a tasty cocktail.
It's pretty good if you like highballs. Okay, if you don't like highballs, it's it's watered down bourbon with a little bit of apricot flavor. Which, yeah, like I said,
Who doesn't like that?
Anyway, you know what else feels watered down, Matthew?
The Giants' offense.
Well, I was going to say their roster, but yeah, that too. I mean, it was already watered down, and now that the roster is watered, that was the good roster, Matthew. I don't know if you know that. The good roster that had no injuries. It was like virtually injury-free.
They had made a roster change since they let Joey Bart go like 2 games into the season.
That's right. Like pitchers, sure, there had been some stuff going on, but all the position players perfectly healthy until Patrick Bailey took the foul ball off the mask, and since then, the disease went straight through the catching core, and then somehow the outfielders caught it too. It took a weird little tangent. It went through the DH, right? This is why we shouldn't have had the DH. Because of this. I know it doesn't make any sense, but I'm going with it. Soler got hurt. And then it was, who was next? Was it
Slater?
It was Slater.
Yeah, because he had a concussion. Slater had a concussion.
Which was just like, 2 days ago or something?
Yeah.
If that. And I know a lot of you cheered because you're monsters and you're horrible people.
Which Ben can respect, by the way.
Yeah, I get it, because then Conforto got hurt.
What are you saying, Ben? What are you saying about Conforto?
Well, what I'm saying is I might have done very sarcastically, and that's horrible because he's actually having a decent season and was starting to heat up. But that just tells you how awful of a person I am. And I don't even dislike the guy. He seems like a very nice, affable guy, but it's just sort of like I just dislike Farhan so much. And I hated those contracts like that. That this is what he's turned me into.
Mm-hmm. And do you believe in karma?
It's Farhan Zaidi's fault that I'm a horrible person.
Do you believe in karma, Ben?
Do I believe in karma?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, because I was going to say, maybe Jung Hoo's injury today was the result of you celebrating Michael Conforto being hurt.
So let me get this straight. You're saying that my karma, the payback for me, was Jung Hoo Lee getting hurt?
Well, it's a stretch, I know, but
yeah.
You get some dissatisfaction out of this too. We're not just talking about
right. Yeah, no. I mean, Jung Hoo got hurt today because he loves the game of baseball so much, and he wants his team to win so much that he sometimes does things that are not wise as they relate to outfield walls.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he almost made that play. He almost made that play. But I think we all agree that we wish he had just sort of jogged that one out. Yeah. And and so now he's the latest man down. Now, we don't know how hurt he is, but we are seeing the words. Every time I see the words, they get worse. Because at first it was a strained shoulder. This was the report that we got in game. I think that was what Pavlovich reported during the game. But then later it became a separated shoulder. And then it became a dislocated shoulder. And I get that those are probably... I think they're the same thing, but one sounds way worse.
It does. Dislocated sounds way worse than separated.
Right. Yeah. Like, would you like if you said we're separated versus we're dislocated? Like, let me put it this way. If Rachel had said we're dislocated to Ross...
Oh, there would be no question.
Then nobody would be disputing. There would be no question, right? Yeah. The copy girl would have been fair game.
Yes. But the fact that they were just separated.
Chloe.
Yeah.
It was her name, by the way. Chloe. Chloe would have been fair game. And Chloe was... Okay, sorry. I was about to go down a tangent.
Yeah, let's stick with the Giants, Ben. Stick with the Giants.
Yes, sorry. Well, Wilmer was with me. Anyway, point is, they were on a break. No, that's not the point. The point is, he's hurt pretty bad, dude.
I know, and
that's the point.
Best case scenario, he's out 2 weeks.
No.
Best case.
Okay, you did some research, right?
I did. I asked ChatGPT. That was
you went to Dr. GPT.
And I said, for a professional baseball player, how much could you expect him to be gone for the separated shoulder? And ChatGPT said, well, if it's just separated with no ligament damage, then you're talking 1 to 2 weeks. But then it started getting into these grade 2 and a slight damage, and then it's like 3 to 6 weeks, and then any ligament damage, then you're in surgery, then you're indefinite, like you're like 12 to whatever weeks. So there is an array of options here, and let's just hope that it was a mild dislocation with no ligament.
These large language models, Matthew, they're suffering from hallucinations. They lie all the time. He's going to be back tomorrow. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, so fine that you're dropping F-bombs or S-bombs.
I did. I'm sorry. I did. It just slipped out. It slipped out, right? I don't know. Like, maybe you could just delete just like, instead of beeping out the whole part, you can just like cover that up. Or maybe we're far enough into the show.
The beeping part is the fun part. If I got to delete it, I might as well just beep it. It's the same amount of work.
Okay, folks, I just want you to know that I whispered it, okay? The beep's going to come through at a single volume. It's not going to imply to you, like, first of all, how involuntary it was.
It actually may not have been a full SHIT. It could have been just a shh, and then you cut yourself. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. I'm pretty sure I got to the T there. I'm pretty sure I did. But yeah, I mean, that just demonstrates, like, we all like this guy, right? I mean, he's, first of all, like, he's hitting 268, but I think all of us see the potential. We all recognize that he's young, and the way that he plays outfield is just, I mean, it's with reckless abandon, obviously. And we love that when he's running down a ball in Philadelphia that should have been a triple, right? I don't know. I have to go back and look at StatCast on Baseball Savant, but I think that might have been a 5-star catch.
Oh, wow.
Which is as rare as they come. Maybe it was a 4-star, but it was either a 4 or a 5. And if you don't know what that means, it just means it was impossible. And then, but he's, he makes these diving plays, and he's just so flashy, and we've seen it, right? He has these multi-hit games where you're just like, yeah, okay, if he can put all of that together, and he starts walking, like, and we can all see it happening, and we're all like, and then we just have to remind ourselves, he's not 29, like most of Farhan's finds. He's 25. So this is a punch in the gut, and I don't mean gut, I mean, this is a kick to the adductor adjacent. Yeah. And it sucks, and I'm sad. So, I thought, Matthew, we could ask ourselves, out of the 3 remaining outfielders, and I'm counting Jorge Soler as an outfielder because MLB.com does.
Yeah, exactly. He's quote unquote outfielder.
Well, and when he went down, we brought an outfielder up to replace him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was Elliot Ramos came up. And so my question for you is, aside from Jung-Hoo Lee, which one of these 3 are you the most disappointed to see go down?
Most disappointed? Oh, probably Conforto. I think his steadiness in the lineup, compared to the others at least, was the one that's going to be hardest to replace. You could argue that Slater and Soler, you might get an upgrade, with a replacement player, the way they've been playing so far this year. But I think Conforto, in my mind, is the one that hurts a little bit. Yeah, but I also think that I might be in the camp of, let's see what some of these young guys can do. I think it is an opportunity for the River Cat contingent to show some things, and some of them, most of them we've already seen. We
right,
but you hope that there's been some growth and some ability to make an impact on the major league club, much like Elliot Ramos has done defensively, especially over the last couple of days. I will say, in Elliot Ramos's first at bat, he came up to bat with a runner on second base and he drove him in. And that was and then meanwhile, Jorge Soler had 88 or 98 runners and had only driven in 3 of them, right? And so we were getting an upgrade right away, and then his defense in Saturday.
Well, he's just been lasering people down.
Yeah. So I think it's been fun to see some of these young guys, particularly since they're performing well. That's always fun. Casey Schmitt with the walk-off today. I think those are. I'm down. I'm down.
That's right. That's right. Because we didn't put Nick Ahmed is also injured. He's not one of the outfielders, but he's also injured. So Casey Schmitt was called up to replace him on the roster. Although we assume that Fitzgerald will get most of those reps. I agree with you. I guess I reluctantly agree that Conforto is the most disappointing, but you know what? I'm not going to lie. Listen, I say this on the show all the time, and I don't want to forget it. These are real human beings. They have hopes, they have dreams, they have aspirations, they have goals. And for them, when these things happen to them, they're not fun. Obviously, they hurt. But it also impacts their career, and it's sort of stuff that they can never get back, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I'm out from work sick for a week, like, I don't think to myself, I'm never going to get those games back. I'm never going to get those days at work back.
Right.
What I think is, cool, I get to binge Netflix, right? That's what I think. But for these guys, it's different. So I don't want to forget that. Okay. So now I'm just going to be awful.
Okay. You've said the caveat.
As a fan, I'm not going to lie. I think when you hear, I think there's a lot of fans who heard when it was Slater, when it was Soler, and when it was Conforto who went down. I think a lot of fans went, meh. And then also thought to themselves, more importantly, who's getting called up to replace these guys? Mm-hmm. Because now suddenly you're like, oh, that's interesting. And for a team that's being kind of disappointing and kind of underperforming, that's, it feels bad to say this, but part of you is just sort of like, oh, interesting. Now they're going to call somebody up that it represents the future, and we can see how this person should do. And a lot of these guys are sort of like, it's time, Elliot, it's time. Mr. Ramos, it is time to start performing.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about those young players now, Matthew, because which of these are you the most excited to see come up is kind of the question I have. And I will say, you brought up Elliot, and I do want to say, first of all,
Mr. Never Will Be.
That's correct. I was about to own that. I was about to own it.
Okay.
I'm going to own it right now. I have declared Mr. Ramos, first name Elliot, spelled Helliot, as a never will be, I think 3 seasons in a row now. And the man is only 20. Is he 24 now? I don't even know if he's 24 yet. And I got to tell you, you know what?
He's 24. Yes, he's 24.
I got to tell you, I heard some people say the same thing about me when I was 23, so it's not like it's that big of a deal. We all hear these things. I guess we don't all. Some of us hear these things. But here's the thing. I would love for Ramos to prove me wrong. And I got to say, now is the time.
Well, he's not going to get many more opportunities, right?
No, he's not going to get many more opportunities. This is his opportunity. No, because he's had 2 opportunities before this, 2 big ones. But I don't know. Last year, it just seemed like Gabe and even Farhan to a little bit, they didn't believe in him and they didn't want to give him the opportunity. I feel like he's going to get a much better opportunity now, but especially they cleared the decks for this guy. It's not like he hopes to get a few at-bats as the 4th outfielder. All the outfielders are gone now.
All of them.
We're probably going to see Ramos and Matos a lot, or at least one of them a lot. And they're going to try to plug the holes with Yaz playing both against righties and lefties and Blake Sable. We're going to talk more about that in a second. But the only way that they get away with only having one of Matos and Ramos and Wisely in the outfield is by putting somebody else out there who wouldn't normally be there. And yeah, that could be Lamont, that could be Sable, and that could be Yaz playing against lefties. But we're going to see at least one of these guys a lot. And finally, they're going to get a lot of at-bats. They're going to play every day. Finally. And we get to see a kid play for at least 2 weeks and hopefully longer. I think with this many spots being open, Matthew, this might be the end for Austin Slater.
Right. Yeah. No, I
once
think
everybody comes back healthy, one of these guys probably will have established himself. Or the future looks bleak for the Giants.
I was going to say, you almost hope that that's the case, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you need some of these guys to step up. But let's go through that. So you have, I'm looking at the 40-man roster right now. Here are the players that are listed as outfielders, and I'm going to include Jorge Soler in that. So you got Michael Conforto on the IL, Jung Hoo Lee headed to the IL, Luis Matos, Elliot Ramos, Austin Slater on the IL, Mike Yastrzemski, Wade Meckler on the IL, Jorge Soler on the IL. There are only 3 listed outfielders that are currently on the 40 man that are able to play now.
Well, and usually you have 5. You usually have
normally
5, right?
5, right? So now
But we have Blake and Lamont. We have a catcher and a first baseman as our 4th and 5th outfielders, but we probably want them to be at least our 3rd outfielder.
Well, then you got Fitzgerald, who could also, especially now
That's
that you've got, if you got Casey Schmitt playing short, then Fitzgerald can play in the outfield, which I probably think we'll see a lot of as well.
Right.
So, yeah, let's talk about that a little bit as far as who gets brought up. Like, so, I think, what does the outfield look like right now?
Well, I mean, I read that like the only person left as a position player is Luciano.
Yeah.
But I think it's Jackson. I think it's Skeeter.
I think Skeeter gets brought up, and then Sable's, so Sable's
an
going to
outfielder.
be more of an outfielder.
But then you also have 3 catchers.
Right. Yeah. So that's not
which
a
gives
bad
you a lot of
thing, which we
flexibility.
had last year, right? When Sable
Right.
was here. And so they use that a lot to their advantage. And so I don't necessarily think that's a terrible thing. Slater, Sable is not the most skilled outfielder.
He's not the best catcher. He's not the best outfielder. But you know what? Like, he's already one of the better hitters.
I was just going to say, but he rakes against right-handers. So I think that's where things could. I'm going to put on my optimistic hat, Ben, and I'm going to say that things could look okay if those guys can play up to their potential. But we are going to be relying on a lot of people that started out in Sacramento over the next at least 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, here I'm going to give you a there's a silver lining to this, even if the Giants don't do well.
Okay.
Right? Like, the silver lining is that we finally get to see some of these kids who are supposed to be the next generation actually play for an extended period of time. And yes, we saw Blake play a lot last year, and I don't know that we think of him as the next generation, but he probably is, and he's a great utility player in a weird way, right? I mean, I bet you he could play some first base if you got him the reps. So he becomes now this guy who can play the corner positions, first base and catcher, right? So he becomes a bit of a utility guy there. But we finally get to see at least Ramos or Matos get a significant amount of reps at the major league level without stepdad or evil grandpa Farhan Zaidi getting in his way. Like, let the kid play, and he sinks or swims.
Yeah.
And to me, that's exciting. That's like, finally.
Right. And I think there are ways that these players can make an impact, even if they're not quite at the hitting level of the potential that maybe Jorge Soler or Michael Conforto has. And we saw that defensively with Ramos. Sometimes we forget that the defensive metrics are equally important. How many runs did he save on Saturday by gunning out 2 guys at second base? And so there. Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a good opportunity to see some of these guys. If it goes poorly, then we'll be upset that the injury bug really ruined the Giants' season. But if it goes well, it just adds to the intrigue and to the possibilities of bringing up some of these younger guys, and then the future looks that much brighter.
Yeah, man, Blake Sable, since he's been with the Giants, or at least in the last 7 games, I don't remember exactly when he came up. His last 7 games, he's 4 for 13 with 2 walks.
Yeah,
including a run scored and an RBI.
He doesn't look overwhelmed at the plate.
No, because he isn't. Because he's a major leaguer. He played an entire year in the major leagues in his mind.
Yeah, and he probably got reinforced when he went down to AAA. So I feel like he is not, and he's actually, his catching looks a lot better than it did previously. Still throwing out runners, but at least he seems more confident in receiving the ball and blocking the ball.
Well, and I tell you what, it helps now that the rest of Major League Baseball is now catching the ball the way he did and getting all those catcher's interferences.
So he doesn't stand out as much. Yeah.
He doesn't stand out as much. Now, everybody's doing it the Blake Sable way now. Right? Maybe, who knows? Maybe he's the guy. I bet him and Patrick Bailey may have been the ones that caused all of this to happen. Right? Because they're thinking, if Blake Sable, who's not a really great catcher, can frame as well as he did, then anybody can if they get closer to home plate.
Of course,
and then that's why Wilson Contreras broke his arm. Yeah, and that's it. It's all Blake Sable's fault. But No. I mean, so I think getting back to the injury thing, I think the silver lining is that we get to see a lot of these young players actually have meaningful at bats in a significant number without management getting in their way, and also I think it helps that we have Melvin, right? Because I think Melvin at least he's a manager who goes by what he sees on the field. Now we may not like how he reacts to that. Right? Because he certainly seems to be the kind of guy who likes to let a guy figure things out while he's playing, which is why we've seen a lot of what Matt Chapman went through.
Yeah.
But at least he's a guy who I think looks more at results and how things are going on the field than waiting for the metrics to come in an hour after the game, like old stepdad did.
Yeah.
And it was clear to me that there's something about Ramos that they didn't like. They didn't like what the weenus said. To bring up another friends reference.
I like it. Well, you say that, and it's interesting because Andrew Baggerly said on Thursday, he mentioned something in passing about how many meetings that the Giants had.
Yeah, that is true. He did throw that out there, didn't he?
And
they used to have a lot more meetings.
Yes. And so what I took from that was that I wonder, that's why I asked the language question too, because I feel like if you're having all these meetings, are the guys that are like not English speakers able to absorb all that information that was getting sent to them and given to them? And I just wonder if they were given a fair shake.
You know what? When I heard that, it made me cringe.
Yeah.
Because, and I've made jokes about this many times about myself on the show, that I used to be a software engineering executive. And by used to be, like, I kind of still am, but I'm on break.
Are you dislocated or separated? Just separated.
I'm dislocated right now, Matthew. I'm dislocated.
Okay.
Definitely. And I think there's been ligament damage. serious ligament damage. And I'm not disappointed about it. But one of the things that, like, software engineers should be writing code, right? And one of the things that I really hated, and it was like one of the things that I would religiously do, is I would go look at all of my engineering teams, right, which could be as many as 40 people. I would go look at their calendars. And what I wanted to see was open field, not a bunch of meetings. And if there were a bunch of meetings, I would occasionally make a fuss, not with my team, not with my guys and gals, but with the people who are calling him into those stupid meetings. Because I'd be like, what are you doing to my guys? Right. And that's exactly how I felt. I mean, like, baseball players should be playing baseball. They shouldn't be in, like, meetings all the time. Like, yes, let's be analytical. Yes, let's think about the approach. But, like, let's not overwhelm people with all of this crap. Sometimes it's just like see ball, hit ball.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's that simple. One player we haven't mentioned, Ben, and I wanted to get your feedback before we move on to the next topic. You were talking about wanting to give guys chances and giving them and seeing them hit.
Right.
Your favorite, Brett Wisely, was called up this week. So do you mean that for Brett Wisely as well? Sure. This is where we get to see what an awful person Ben is.
Okay, Matthew, do you know this statistic called WAR?
Yes, I do.
And what it stands for, it's called wins above replacement.
Yeah.
And it's built upon all of this concept of, like, people think it means, wins above average. No. Wins above replacement means how much better are you than a replacement player. Now, what's a replacement player? A replacement player is a player who would not, if everybody was perfectly healthy to begin the major league season, a replacement player would not be on the major league roster. They would be in AAA. Okay?
Okay.
I believe Brett Wisely's replacement player's WAR should always be 0. Because he is the replacement player.
Yeah, now, fair.
That means he's one of the best to ever do it. One of the best to ever do it, right? Because there's only been like 40,000 of them, Major League Baseball players total. And he's better than a lot of them. So he's one of the best to ever at his profession. But when it comes to the 30 Major League Baseball teams, he shouldn't be on one. He's a replacement player. And that's and he's ours, and I'm glad he's there because he's versatile. But I prefer to see him in the middle infield than I prefer to see him in the outfield, because in the outfield, I don't think his defense, at least last year, was not as good. I think the Giants thought he was better. And so they put him in some situations that were not advantageous to the team and to him, and he was not good on defense in the outfield. On offense, he's never great, except once upon a time in February, he hit 2 home runs. Okay, so no, I'm not excited to see Brett Wisely play every day. No, I don't think he will ever... I don't think his ceiling is Major League. If he wants to prove me wrong, I invite him to.
Absolutely.
And that's my feelings on Brett Wisely.
All right.
You know what? I called Elliot Ramos and never will be.
Are you switching that mantle over to Brett Wisely?
No, I wouldn't even deign to call Brett Wisely that because it implies that other people think otherwise.
Oh.
So yeah, do with that what you will. Like I said, I'm an awful person, people. Like, I recognize he's a human being. I just said he's one of the greatest to ever do his job. Way better than I was ever at my job. Like,
hey, there's no shame in saying you were a major leaguer. You know?
No, exactly right. And he will always be. And he's not even just like, he didn't get a cup of coffee. Like, he's a replacement player. He's the guy who gets called up every time somebody gets hurt.
Yeah.
That's no small thing.
All right, speaking of getting called up.
Mm-hmm.
So who is the call up for Jung-Hoo Lee when he goes on the IL? Are we in agreement that it's Skeeter Reitz?
It's Skeeter. Yeah. I don't like that name. I don't.
It's
here
Jackson.
I am just bashing on
Jackson Reitz. All right.
Here
But
I am
it's
just
Jackson
telling
with
Brett
a
Wisely.
K. There's no C in there at all. That kind of makes it weird too.
Okay, so you'd rather call him Skeeter than Jackson because there's no C in his name?
The K. I don't know. Just Skeeter is kind of an amalgam of Jackson and Reitz.
Skeeter. Yeah.
Anyway.
You know what I'd like to see, Matthew, is I'd like to see that eventually end up on his baseball reference page. Skeeter.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I don't know what we need to do to make that happen, but somehow it's got to percolate through somewhere. A writer has to write it down, I think. Oh, if only we knew a writer.
If only. All right, you get on that. I'll get on it. Okay.
What are you talking about? I was talking about, you're the one who talks to Andrew. I don't talk to Andrew. He's the only writer we know. He's the only writer of all the writers that we reached out to that replied to us. Which I think right now is we're batting 1,000.
I was going to say, I haven't really. Susan Slusser, you're next.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's like Cocktail Sue, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Slusser
all
next.
right. Well, we got to get going here because we're running out of time. But I do want to talk about, Ben, who is our next All-Star. As you mentioned at the beginning, All-Star season, we will start seeing those ballots soon. And, it got me thinking, especially when I saw Lamont Wade Jr. today, another clutch hit.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, and I must admit, I was not thinking of pitching, but I was like,
yeah,
could Lamont Wade Jr. be our only All-Star this year?
Well, here's the good news. Every team has to have one.
Right. They have to have one.
And which I think is a good rule. There's people out there that don't like that rule, but I'm like, no, the All-Star game is mostly for the fans. And so every team should be represented.
Yeah, and inevitably that one guy that maybe was borderline, but he's the one team's player, ends up being the MVP. I mean, that's
right. And look, the National League never wins the All-Star game, and look what happened last year. They won, and who was the winning pitcher? Camilo Doval.
That's right.
Right? And that's cool. That's cool. Like, right? Like, that's like, Giants
he wasn't our only
what?
All-Star, but yeah.
No, he wasn't our only All-Star, but he won the game. Like, he was the winning pitcher for the National League, and they rarely win. So that was cool. That was a cool thing for Giants fans. And look at the Rockies, right? Like, Rockies fans, I don't even know why they bother. Last year, they had the MVP of the All-Star game.
Right. Exactly. That's what I meant. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I like this rule. I do think it is likely that the Giants only have one. And it's because the Giants are just kind of mediocre. They're kind of ho-hum. And a lot of their stars, the guys who would be sort of like the obvious picks, they're not doing well. And poor Camilo, he's not getting the opportunities.
Well, and you look at it this way. There's, 8 to 10 players are going to be Braves or Dodgers?
Right.
I mean, and then you got to fit everybody else in. Like,
So I feel like, look, I don't think it's Logan because I think he's laid too many eggs, and a guy like that needs to have great games. It's obviously not going to be Blake Snell because
no, of course not. but Jordan Hicks.
Hey, Logan Webb. By the way, Blake Snell, immaculate inning against minor leaguers today in the first inning in San Jose. But I got to tell you, I saw the last strike on that, and it was just like, I don't think I would have. I would not have swung at that pitch. I say that with strong confidence. Listener, you wouldn't have swung at that pitch. It was that bad of a pitch. But anyway, it's not going to be Logan Webb. It's not going to be any of our standard guys. It's not even going to be like guys who might have been like, Conforto. If Conforto had been playing the way he was the first week of the season, he would probably be a strong contender. So, like, none of the position players, none of our stars have really done it. So, is it Lamont Wade Jr.? The problem is he plays first base.
Yeah.
And I think Ryan Walker, he's not a setup man. He's not a closer.
You either got to be a starter or a closer to be, considered to be an all-star. So I think Ryan Walker, even though the numbers say that he's having an all-star type season, just he doesn't have the numbers.
I think when you look at the numbers, like when you look at the numbers, and that's what most people are going to look at, it's Lamont Wade Jr. and it's the guy that we all knew was going to be great. The absolute lock-in guy in our rotation. Everybody was confident about this guy. Jordan Hicks.
Yeah.
I think those are your front runners.
Right. Camilo only has 6 saves. He's 9th in the National League in saves.
Yeah, he's just not, it's not flashy enough. And that's not his fault. No. It's not his fault because it's like even when they win, they don't, it's not a save situation.
It's so weird. So weird.
It's very weird. He's had a weird season. He's got to be just like twiddling his thumbs back there, just being like, they made these special lights for me and now I never get to use them.
Well, the other name that people bring up is Patrick Bailey. Bailey being on the concussion list. I mean, yes, he's a great defensive catcher and actually been doing very well offensively, but doesn't hit for power. I think there are other catchers ahead of him.
Well, and catcher is again one of those positions that it's just like, first of all, there's not going to be that many catchers on the roster, 2. Maybe 2. Right.
Yeah.
And first baseman, there's just too many good players there, right? It's going to be Freddie Freeman for sure.
For sure.
And then, name Matt Olson, right? Like I don't even know who's doing well in the National League, but I can already tell you it's a tough road to hoe for a first baseman. But Lamont can play outfield, so maybe that benefits him because a Giant does have to go.
Ben, do you want to know who's second among all National League first basemen in batting average right now, behind Freddie Freeman?
I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if you told me he was first. It's Lamont Wade Jr. No?
Well, I know because Lamont doesn't have enough at-bats.
Oh, he's not qualified. He doesn't qualify.
But who has qualified and is number 2 is Connor Joe. Batting 292.
292. Wow, really? So who's got the best OPS among first basemen?
Josh Naylor, Bryce Harper, Freddie Freeman, and then Connor Joe is 4th.
Naylor is a Guardian, right?
Yes.
So that's the AL.
So that's the AL. Yeah.
Yeah. So Harper, right? Okay. So
Harper and
Freeman.
It's
Freeman and Harper are your first basemen.
Yeah. Connor Joe's going to get snubbed.
Yeah, Connor Joe's going to get snubbed. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I think it might be Jordan Hicks, and that's it. I think Jordan Hicks, people are going to like his numbers better than Lamont Wade Jr. Lamont Wade Jr. is kind of a platoon player, although at this point he probably shouldn't be, right? I think Lamont should be in there every day because his, and I know he's not great against lefties, but folks, he gets walks against lefties.
And he's actually done fairly well against lefties this year. He just hasn't had a lot of at-bats against them.
Right, yeah, and he finally had a home run, and so the power, hopefully that means he's going on a power surge, and so he is our best offensive player. I tell you what, when he got hit in the shoulder by that ball that almost hit him in the head, my heart stopped. If Lamont Wade Jr. goes on the IL, game over, folks. Game over. Season over. And who had that on their bingo?
That's so weird. Yeah, I was going to say.
Did you have that on your bingo card? No,
nope.
I didn't. No. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If Lamont Wade Jr. gets hurt in May, our season is doomed. Did not see that one coming. Hey, so baseball. Hey, this is fun, right, Matthew? We're having fun in 2024, us Giants fans. Living it up. Hey, you know what? Blake Snell threw an immaculate inning today on Mother's Day.
Oh man, that'd be like you against little leaguers.
Yeah, somebody tell Ben Kaspick Hey, Ben, if you had heard that Blake Snell was going to throw an immaculate inning on Mother's Day, how excited would you be?
He wouldn't have been as excited.
What are you talking about? He was pro Blake Snell. He was so pro Blake Snell.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, you all of you were.
I was going to say, I don't think there
I was
were
on
many
Team
of us that were.
Farhan. I was like, no, Blake Snell. Save that money. Let's see some Mason Black. But boy, was I wrong, because I thought Farhan liked Mason Black, but he did. He did. Not as much as he liked Dalton Jeffries, though. Anyway.
All right. Anyway.
It's time to wrap things up.
It
right?
is. I think it's time to answer our trivia question. So the trivia question today was, since 2017, the Giants have sent 8 different players to the All-Star game, some of them more than once. Only one player, though, is currently on the active roster. Name him.
Okay, I hate that I had to get this one wrong.
I know, because
Okay.
this one was a gimme. I know you knew this one.
Well, and this is my guy.
Yes,
This is my favorite San Francisco Giant right now. Zhang-Hu, you're a strong contender. But it's my boy. It's my boy Camilo Doval.
Correct.
It is not Jackson Skeeter Reitz.
No, not Skeeter Reitz.
Not
Camilo
Skeeter.
Doval is the only player currently on the roster that was an all-star for the Giants. Alex Cobb, not on the active roster, but also represented the Giants last year as an all-star. Both were from last year, though. No other Giants all-star player are currently playing for the Giants. And I think that's kind of interesting that the Giants just haven't been able to produce it.
It would be interesting to see if any former Giants all-star, like who represented the Giants in the all-star game, is playing in Major League Baseball at all.
Well, 2022 was Carlos Rodon and Jock Peterson.
Okay, yeah.
2021 was
playing
Brandon
well.
Crawford. 2021, our 107-win season, was Brandon Crawford,
that's right.
Kevin Gausman, Buster Posey, and those 3.
Buster Posey's not playing.
Yep. 2020, there was none.
Kevin's playing
2019,
well.
we had one, and it was Will Smith.
Still playing. Oh,
Yeah.
but he's on the IL?
2018 was Brandon Crawford and Buster Posey. And 2017 was just one player, and that was Buster Posey. So we have, if you want to go back to 2016, we had Cueto, Posey, Belt, and Bumgarner.
Okay, none of them who are playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's a long time ago at this point, dude.
Yeah.
2016?
That's eight years ago. Yeah. So,
I mean, yeah.
So I thought it was Jock Peterson. Did you remember that he was our?
I did.
All-star
When you said it out
representative?
loud, no, I
And
did
Carlos
remember
Rodon.
that. I did because he had a good first half, and it was.
That's right.
I did.
He's a fan favorite too. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a fan favorite until he.
Well, he was a
crapped
Braves
on-
and Dodger fan favorite.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He
So
was
I
a
think
fan
that
favorite.
helped- that
People
helped.
knew him, and so that helped with the voting or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he got voted in though. Did he? No. He
No,
was
I don't think
selected.
so.
Anyway, there was one thing I know we're done with the show, but you did ask who's going to have more All-Stars, the A's or the Giants, and I thought that question was just too fire to not ask it, just to not mention it on the show. Just so you want to let you know, folks, that is what we put down on our show notes. We asked that question: who's going to have more wins, the A's or the Giants? Sorry, more All-Stars, A's or the Giants? Because right now the record is the same.
Which is weird.
There's an ownership that's not trying at all. Seems like
Baseball's
they're actively
weird.
trying to not to. And a front office that has an owner like that. And they're just as good as the San Francisco Giants. So it either means that the San Francisco Giants aren't trying, or they're just not good. And I don't think it's the first one.
I'm going to say that they have the same number of All-Stars.
You're going to say they both have one.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
You're
saying.
the closer kid from Oakland. I think they're going to have 2. I think the A's are going to have 2.
Okay.
I do. And the
Well,
Giants
I
will
guess-
have 1.
You
Anyway.
want to bet it? You want to bet a Negroni on it?
I do. Yes, I really do.
All right, you heard it here, folks.
I'm
Ben has
betting
put a Negroni on the line, saying the A's will have more All-Stars than the Giants.
That should tell you folks how badly I don't want that to happen.
Oh,
I'm gonna bet
man.
I'm going to bet it. If the A's have more All-Stars than the Giants, I don't have to drink a Negroni.
Bob, if the Giants have more All-Stars than the A's, what is that going to mean?
Sweeter than a Negroni.
That's right, Bob. Sweeter than a
Yeah, there you go, Bob. Bob, everything's sweeter than Negroni. I mean, I guess they are sweet, but the finish just makes you forget all about it. Kind of like the 2024 Giants. I bet their finish is going to make us forget all about this.
So looking ahead to next week, we also have the Dodgers. Things are about to get real, folks. But, who knows? Maybe we got them at
one
home.
game. Win one game, you morons.
One game. You couldn't
morons.
win one against the Phillies,
you,
but one game at home against the Dodgers. Okay, I want two. I want 2 wins.
Oh, shit. Don't get whatever. Like, one game.
All right, one game.
One game. Take 1 out of 3, you lovable lugs.
All right, well, and then notable players, there are a lot who have played both for the Giants and the Dodgers, but some that I think are kind of interesting. Dusty Baker.
Yeah, I mean, and I think he's the only guy who gets a pass. Maybe Dodger fans don't like him, but certainly Giants fans, he gets a pass. He gets a pass because of the whole management stuff.
He also came from the Dodgers to the Giants.
Which always makes a difference. I mean, Oral Hershiser did the same, and all I got to say is, hate you.
But Dodgers fans probably hate it more that he was a Giant than we do.
Yeah, good, which actually makes me happy, but also hate you. Oral.
Others, Jeff Kent played a few years with the Dodgers.
Of course he was. Of course. Of course.
Then there was Fear the Beard, Brian Wilson.
Also feels like, I mean, yeah.
It was so weird seeing him in a Dodgers uniform.
It was, but at the same time, it's just sort of like, yeah, they would do that. They just it's like with Jeff Kent and Brian Wilson, they just wanted to sully them. They just wanted to dirty the memory of those guys for Giants fans. And that's the only reason they signed them.
One other player that played for both that maybe only the Gen Xers and Boomers of our listeners are going to remember was, and I say this because there was a connection with our family here, Russ Ortiz.
I don't know what you're talking about. That never happened. He was only ever a Giant. Shut up. What are you talking about? People don't remember Russ Ortiz. Russ Ortiz was the winning pitcher of Game 6 in the 2022 World Series when the Giants won the World Series against the Los Angeles Angels in Anaheim.
2022 or the...
Sorry, 2002. 2002. When they won the World Series against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim in 6 games, Russ Ortiz, winning pitcher, World Series hero.
Well, it's funny that we mentioned Dusty Baker earlier, too, because I think
he's the guy who gave him the ball and
kept Russ in there for another
inning. He should have left Russ in there. Like, everybody agrees. Like,
Anyway, we could have a whole episode on that.
So, yeah, people don't remember Russ Ortiz, whatever, and he was never a Dodger. I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
All right. Well, Ben, I have to remind you that we have listeners that weren't born in 2002. So, just
baseball reference is a thing. I don't know how hard it is to go look at.
All right, go look up Russ Ortiz. He was a forever Giant, really awesome.
It takes an hour and 20 minutes to look at every single year.
Also, notably, Ben's wife had a big crush on Russ Ortiz, so we call him in our household Russell the Love Muscle.
Okay, that's a whole different story. You don't need to bring that up. Okay. But yeah, I like Russell too. Like, if she had said, I'm leaving you for Russell, I would have been shrugged and just been like, but Russell would never, because he was a family man and he had a family.
Yeah.
And I think we've gone down way too long for this. The show is like 2 hours long now. It's time to wrap it up, Matthew. Let's wrap it up.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for sticking around for another episode of Giant Cocktails. Don't forget to follow us on the socials, which would be the platform formerly known as Twitter, on Instagram, Threads, and Mastodon. Give us a follow and interact with us, especially on that platform formerly known as Twitter, because that's where we are during games. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Oh, and I keep forgetting we are on YouTube. So don't forget that you can actually go onto YouTube and listen to us. It's not our ugly faces, just the audio, but you can leave messages and comments or whatever and all that. And that's part of the fun. So follow us there if you'd like. I think that's it, Ben. It's been good chatting with you. Until next time. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, Matthew. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Giant Cocktails Podcast. Until next time. Bottoms Up.
I'm a little worried that Andrew Baggerly makes better cocktails than we do.
You're a little bit worried.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not worried. I just
Hey,
I know,
you know what? No.
I know that he makes better.
Okay, I was
cocktails
gonna
than we
say Matthew, you don't have to worry about it. Like, listen, he does. I'm glad that Brett Wisely is down there in AAA, waiting to be called up when there's 3 guys on the IL. I'm glad he's there.
There with his voodoo doll, just sticking up.
No, with his 3 voodoo dolls. Let's face it.
Exactly.
It's got his 3 voodoo dolls out, and he's like, every day. You're way more talented than me, Brett. We all know it. We all know it, dude. You just chose the wrong profession, man.